Now that we've clarified the concept of knowledge, it's worth spending a couple of minutes getting a little clearer on the notion of skepticism, what exactly skepticism is. And skepticism in English just expresses usually that you have some doubts. If you're skeptical about something, somebody is offering to have you buy something at a very, very, very cheap price, and you're skeptical as to whether they're really going to sell it to you at that price, or this you're skeptical maybe about whether they have rightful ownership of that particular thing. And that's what skepticism means in ordinary English. But in philosophy, and in particular, when we're talking about the problem of knowledge and skepticism within the history of modern philosophy, early modern philosophy, skepticism has a very specific definition, and it's a little bit stronger than what we were just talking about, that the meaning that has in ordinary English. That is, when we say somebody is a skeptic about a certain subject, like in our case, the external world, we say that the person believes that no one can have knowledge about that kind of thing. So now you were a little bit puzzled. That is, when I first mentioned this, trying to figure out why would anybody think that skepticism is true. But what we did point out is that skepticism about things like proposition number 3, that it will rain on April 15th, 2175, about 150 years from now. Just about everybody is a skeptic about the weather 150 years going forward. So that's something that we think that the philosophical notion of skepticism really is true. Skepticism about the weather 150 years from now seems to be a non-controversial doctrine. Everybody's a skeptic about it. But that led to figuring out something about maybe a little bit closer that could be a reason for skepticism. So we asked, does anybody know that for a meteorite will not strike the Statue of Liberty tonight? A meteorite is a heavenly body, a big rock. This year one landed in Russia, and it killed quite a few people. It was a very tragic situation. But what we learned from that was that we just don't know enough, and we don't know. There are so many of these meteorites, these smaller bodies, think of them as bodies much smaller than entire planets, flying around the universe, and we don't know what path they take, how the gravity of one affects the gravity of the other. So we don't have any reason for thinking that the meteorite will not strike the Statue of Liberty tonight. And we're going to use that kind of skepticism to try to make an argument for a much larger skepticism. But before we move on to that, it's worth just reviewing a concept. And the concept being the difference between a necessary truth and a contingent truth. That is, a necessary truth being something like a truth of mathematics, like 2 plus 3 is 5. That was Descartes' favorite example. Mine, is 2 plus 2 is 4. But even things like all bachelors are unmarried. Another necessary truth, conceptual truth. That is, no matter how the world ended up, no matter what happened in the world, 2 plus 3 was always going to equal 5. But contingent truths or contingent propositions, that is a proposition that's either contingently true or contingently false, is a little bit different. What actually happens in the world is what makes them true or false. Like, the Statue of Liberty will be standing tomorrow. That is just a contingent truth. It's contingent on, everything sort of just continuing the way it has, that there's no major earthquake, that some terrorists don't bomb it and blow it up, nobody crashes a plane into it, and a meteorite does not strike it.